Catholic James Fishback, he needs a marriage contract, not a marriage covenant. So the guy has come out in favor of removing rights for spouses who commit adultery. He's running for governor of Florida. This is big news. This is very exciting. No one's coming out and saying this. Everyone obviously has a big problem with all the injustice going on with spousal separations. You heard that word, injustice, which means we need to have a remedy for that. However, his problem is he keeps using that word covenant. And when you say covenant, you have no justice because you have no rights. We're going to define a little bit of this stuff and come up with a solution for hopefully the future governor of Florida, James Fishback. I'm John Farrell. This is Annulment Proof.
If you're out at the bar and you're drunk with your friends while your girl waits up at home, and you see a pretty blonde come walking in and you notice she's all alone, you say, what's the hurt? And just a little bit of flirting, and you ask her what she's drinking. Well, honey, I hate to tell you, that's cheating.
Dog.
If you ask for
we need to have a good set of rules, a good set of a way to get this stuff into court. And, you know, how are we going to prove cheating or not? That's a big deal. So we need to at least get these rules down, okay? This is where this information comes in about contract versus covenant and justice. Let's look at some of these videos of this guy, James Fishback, who I'd never heard of until this came up. All right, hang on a sec. Let's put it on.
As governor, that means that if someone in our state makes the stupid decision to cheat on their spouse and there's a divorce,
if someone in this state makes the stupid decision to cheat on their spouse, this implies that there are rules and that there is justice, all right? So we got to have a contract. Otherwise, who is the guarantor of said rights? This is why we have no fault today, because if you start mentioning covenant, it's basically God who's in charge and has nothing to do with anybody else. It's all private, okay? Marriage is private. Obviously, we're going to have to fight our way through this because, as I said, so many people are getting burned so bad that no one can figure out the solution. Everyone's like, this is terrible. What's the solution? The solution is get back to fault-based, define rights. Rights can only be defined in a contract, and that contract comes from the definition of marriage, which is unchanging. And that means we have to define the origin, the purpose, and that's procreation. And because we have all this birth control, it's going to be really hard. But at least we can try to, he's going to try to knock out infidelity. That's good. Let's keep going here. Hang on a second.
the cheater will lose everything.
The cheater will lose everything. Great news. As I said before, define if you cheat, that's assuming there is some basis in law that there's some justice involved. So we have to, if we're going to make this Florida law, he's going to have to put some teeth in the marriage contract. You can't call it a covenant because a covenant has no rights. While I'm thinking, and I'm going to get more into the meat of what this guy says. There's a couple more videos, but let's while I'm thinking of it, let's look at what is a difference between a contract and a covenant as far as this is concerned. I was doing a little research on this. It's pretty interesting. So this is from some Protestant website. It says the key components of a contract. While all contracts feel fair, a contract is an agreement between two or more parties. A contract is performance-based. Oh, really? Performance-based. So that means spouses have to do something? That means one has a right? Yeah, it's called, in the Bible, you have a right over their body, okay? All gone with contraception, family planning, all gone because there's no more right because there's just love. So this is, I'm sorry, I'm digressing so much. I know you guys like to watch videos and get it all really down, really smooth. I got to ramble. I got to get warmed up. This is going to take an hour. Let's just buckle up and get down to business on this. And again, anything I say that doesn't sound right, you just talk to me in the comment section. For sure. All contracts are performance-based. Yeah. If one party doesn't live up to their end of the agreement, they could lose the deal altogether, or worse, end up in front of a judge. Exactly. Okay. Who's the judge? It's the future Governor Fishback. He's the judge. He is saying if you don't do what is performance-based, you could end up in front of the judge. Yep. Uh-huh. Sorry, covenant. It's a marriage is a contract. Yes, it's a solemn contract for those who are baptized. God pays attention. God writes down in notes what's up. You can't break that contract because it's a solemn contract. And if you're going to break a contract with the state, the law might come down on you. If you're going to break a contract with that's solemn, God's going to come down on you, but also the state, because it's I forgot the term exactly, but the state and the church have an interest. God has an interest. The state has an interest. Anyhow, if one party doesn't live up to the end of the agreement, and we got to define the terms of the agreement. If you just say it's a covenant of love, what does that mean? Most people, and we got to have a political solution here, and that's why James Fishback is wise to at least, because are you going to get a bunch of, I don't know, a cross-section of Floridians in the room and say, let's all define marriage together? It's going to last 10 seconds. No one can define marriage. The Catholics can't even define marriage anymore because family planning says it's love and we can't define it. I've done lots of videos on that. We have to come up with a political solution that will kind of work. And I think this whole adultery equals you get no rights is excellent. It's a real good start. And it doesn't favor the feminists because everyone kind of knows that the woman typically gets the other thing lined up before she leaves. That's kind of what happens. We don't need to go into that. Okay, time bound. A contract must have a time limit. Till death. Marriage is not forever. It's till death. Time limit gives a deadline to evaluate the performance of both parties. Okay, yeah. What do you have to do? 1 Corinthians 7:4. Do not defraud on your contract. She has a right to him. He has a right to her. His body, not his person, not his mind, not his spirit, not his soul. His body. It's a contractual right to make babies. That's what marriage is. But if contraception is okay, if family planning is okay, quote, natural or otherwise, hey, you don't have that right anymore. There's no right to the body for procreation because we're not using it for procreation. Boom, marriage definition gone. How many people voting in Florida are pro-family planning or think it's okay? 99.999% of them. So you can't win defining marriage if family planning is okay. You're DOA on this. So Fishback has got to try to at least bring a modicum, a thimbleful of common sense to the problem. And I think what he did was pretty good. He's saying, if you commit adultery, you get 0. So most people, even though they can't define marriage, can see that this is obviously cheating, okay? Even the U.S. bishops can't see that adultery is cheating because there's no more, they call it a covenant. And, it's like, hey, maybe it wasn't valid, so you're not really cheating, right? Everyone goes to communion. Again, I'm going to talk too much and we'll never get through this video, so we got to keep going. Okay. There's no way after this deadline, both parties usually have an option to sue. Judge determine. Okay, whatever. All contracts have if-then type clauses. Right. So, if your spouse does not perform to the contract, you can take them. You have legal recourse, and in the church, yeah, if they don't honor their end of the contract, which is conjugal rights, that's where you have separation courts in the Catholic Church. And they always had fault-based courts, and this stuff was in the state. All this was fault-based. But again, once you get rid of procreation primary, there can be no more fault. There's no basis for judging fault. And if someone wants to commit adultery, you're like, well, there's no marriage there because there's no love there, so there's no fault there. You tell my spouse he's got to be nice to me, or I don't have to be nice. See what I mean? This is why no fault is the only solution if family planning is okay. But everyone can start to see now that this is not working. And the amount of carnage to children, to the family, to the government, you have large swaths of orcs out there, Walmart orcs, so to speak. A lot of people are messed up. A lot of walking wounded because their family's trashed. Okay, there's a bunch of that, tons. You're gonna have a terrible society if you don't have the building block of marriage, and you can't have a building block of marriage unless you can define it. This is a step in the right direction. Until we have a Catholic republic or whatever, you'll not be able to define marriage correctly, but we have to do what we can with the system. So most people can see if someone commits adultery, they should get nothing. That's like kind of a good political slogan. That's a good political position. He's got to get comfortable with the term contract. Let's see, clauses, if then clauses. Okay, one party fails to perform, the other party has options to sue, terminate, or renegotiate. That's all that's all comes from Catholicism. You have, if one spouse does defraud on their contractual rights that you owe the other, you can take them to separation court. In practice, clauses are put into contract to add special conditions. Yeah. All right, signature, got it. All right, key components of a covenant. So is marriage a contract or a covenant? All right. From examining these 5 covenants, one-sided, whether the party lives up to their agreement or not has nothing to do with the promise. Okay? So if marriage is a covenant and one party bails, that has nothing to do with the promise. The promise is available for anyone that accepts the conditions of the covenant. What are the conditions of the covenant? If you look at the state, if you look at the rights and duties of marriage in the state constitution, they basically don't exist. They're just like, you consent to marriage, but marriages, we don't know what it is. We're not going to tell you what your rights and duties are because no one can define those anymore. If marriage is love, we can't define it. But every knucklehead can pretty much figure out that if you cheat, and they know what cheating is, you intuitively know what cheating is. Cheating is violating your marriage vows. All of this is again, it's not set in, how should I put this? People can sense this through common sense, even though the law is gone. The law has just disappeared on us after all the contraception. The love-based marriage, love wins. Nature is love. Love is whatever you want. Therefore, marriage is gone. This is all an attack on marriage through family planning. The legal structure of marriage is melted down. There's nothing there. So he is trying to rebuild some type of barrier, some type of structure to marriage. Maintain your frame, as they say. What frame? Love is a frame. Love is a battlefield, I hear. From the 80s, you know what I'm talking about. So there's like, okay, so again, politically, most people can understand that if we're gonna call cheating, you lose your rights, that people can get behind that. Okay, forever. A covenant is forever. Yeah, you make a covenant. God makes a covenant with his people. It's forever, but it's not bound by a time limit. Marriage is till death. A covenant till death doesn't quite make sense. It's a contract. It is not terminated should either party fail to live up to the obligations. Well, a solemn contract is not terminated. But if one party does not live up to the obligations, like, okay, everyone can kind of agree that you can't have polygamy and you're married, you can't cheat, okay? Because everyone sort of knows what cheating is, even though the law doesn't tell you. They know what cheating is. They're failing to live up to their obligations. It is not terminated if the other party fails to live up. Well, that means we have to determine what failure is, and that's cheating. I forgot the point I was going to make. Let me think for a second. Okay, here we go. A covenant is not terminated should the other party fail to live up to their obligations. Well, if they do fail to live up and they cheat, then the contract is the living together. The marriage isn't terminated. However, the contract shall be broken by authority. You have to have, this is what Fishback is attempting to do, is basically be a Florida bishop. That's what he's attempting. He's got to step in and govern the contract. If it's all governed by God, you can go, rob a bank and the police show up. You say, hey, this is covenant, dude. God's going to sort it out. You get out of here. This is my business between me and the bank. Now give me all your money, fill it up. Okay, put the money in the bags. Cops, you disappear because this is a covenant. God's going to sort out. This has nothing to do with law or justice. That's how dumb this is. So we're trying to bring some bit of sanity back. And I say more power to Fishback. So if the other party fails to live up, what do you do? Because covenant is forever, right? And it keeps going. Well, if they fail to live up, you have to have justice, which means you have to have some sort of guarantor of rights. That means the governor is the guarantor, the state of rights. You have to have some rights, but a covenant is like, no, God's the guarantor. This is the huge problem. The reason why covenant is big is because it started with the Protestants when they fired all the bishops. John Calvin realized, he turned around and said, oh, we got no bishops. We have no guarantor of rights. We can't base our marriage contract on rights because there's nothing there. So we have to call it a covenant, and we'll let the state deal with the rest. And that's what happened, and Martin Luther just fell right into that. Now the U.S. bishops are like, yeah, marriage is a covenant because we're not guarantors of rights either. We used to have separation courts until after Vatican II. We got rid of them all because we can't define the rights of marriage, because marriage is a love covenant. Now there's no rights. Okay, I got to beat that up enough. Okay, here. By the way, I'm going to help Fishback a little bit on what the Catechism says about marriage contracts. But before I get there, it says a covenant is a sign, an outward sign of acceptance. Biblically, a sacrifice or something of value solidified the agreement, except in the case of Noah's rainbow. Whatever. Oh yeah. So yes, a covenant is a sign. That's right. But signs have zero to do with law. Okay. An abortion is a sign. A healthy baby born is a sign. A marriage that's together is a sign. A marriage that's apart is a sign. Nothing to do with law or nature. Okay, we have to get down to what's really going on, and it's contract. That is where the rubber meets the road. Okay, Catechism CCC 1625, free to contract marriage. Okay, this is Catholic. This is normal. This is grounded in reality. We have to have a marriage contract. It's two people giving rights to each other's body. That's what it is. A body is definable. It has boundaries. It's finite. You can say yes to it. You can give your body to somebody, but you can't give your mind, soul, and spirit to somebody because you don't even have, who knows themselves perfectly, who has total command of their spirit, whatever. It's complete. It's just a bunch of goofy weirdness. This is why people sound really weird, going on and on about the marriage covenant. They can't pin it down. They talk about obligations, and they talk about, I don't know. I forgot things they have to do and stuff, and how marriage, commitment. Marriage is commitment. Commitment to what? It's commitment to commitment to commitment. You have to have something concrete, and at least, like I say, for politically, people can understand it's concrete. Fidelity is pretty concrete. No cheating. Sorry. 1631, the faithful contract marriage according to ecclesiastical form. They contract marriage, breaking the contract on which it is based. Okay, that's what adultery does. It breaks the contract on which it is based. Not a covenant, Fishback, okay? Contract. It's based on a contract. So you have to be comfortable with saying both things. Politically, you got to say covenant these days. But you got to make sure that people understand. These words are thrown around at like unity and bond and all these words. They are empty vessels of tofu that mess up the definition. If you want, you can play that game then. Tell them marriage is a contract, and you can say it's a covenant too. And the covenant people are like, yes, that means we believe in God, so marriage is a covenant. But it's also, as far as the state is concerned, it's a contract. Now, you can say, I guess the details of the contract we can't really specify, because if we're allowing homo marriage and we're allowing birth control, the contract doesn't exist. But at least we're going to say, if you have to have fidelity to one person while you're legally married, so the reason why all those what do you call it, alienation of affection laws disappeared is because they're based on contract rights, and all that went out the window with legalized family planning. There's no more contract rights. That's why all those alienation of affection laws disappeared. So people realized that when you start making marriage lawless, you invite a lot of problems into society, into your own life, real serious problems. So they're trying. So again, you're fighting an uphill battle against the church and against the people who are all brainwashed and addicted to birth control. And you're telling them, we're going to try to define marriage, and you're not going to give up your birth control. So we're going to do a political workaround, and we're going to say no, any adultery equals no rights. And I think most people can bite on that. More power. But I'm just giving a little theory as to what's ultimately what was behind it. CCC 2384. Okay, well, this is what divorce does. It claims to break the contract to which the spouses freely consented. Whoever separates is laying claim to the contract. So you are taking authority into your own hands. That's where this comes from. You're breaking the contract, and the only people who are allowed to do that is authority, legitimate authority, and the state is allowed to break the contract if now, okay, Governor Fishback is saying, I'm going to break the contract if there's adultery. If there's adultery, I'm going to break that contract because the state has legitimate authority, just like when Pontius Pilate was going to crucify our Lord. Jesus says, hey, you wouldn't have any authority unless God gave it to you. God gives authority to the state to do stuff. So they can break the contract, okay, if there's something going wrong with the per divine law. However, only the bishop is allowed to do that, break that contract. But most people can understand that when you are committing adultery, you're breaking divine law. So this is why I say this is a real tough gig when you're trying to do Catholic morality on a bunch of people who don't want it, and even the Catholics don't want it. So you're appealing to divine law. Basically, he's saying adultery is breaking divine law, and everyone's like, yeah, that's true. All right, now let's get to the video before I talk your arm off. Hold on a second. All right, this is the main one. Hopefully I don't talk too much.
That's the affordability side. Second, we got to do strong families. How do you fight for strong families?
Sorry, it's a little quiet. We got to do strong families. Absolutely. You have to define family, I guess. And again, he's trying to solve everything politically, and that's good because you got to deal with what's going on. The political reality is you don't have Catholic truth to work with. You're trying to work with just human intuition.
You have to incentivize marriage. You have to stop disincentivizing marriage. Look.
Great point. A lot of traction with that soundbite. You have to incentivize marriage. Stop disincentivizing it. Yes, the common thing you hear on Pearl Davis type websites and comment section is guys will say, why would I enter a contract where people are incentivized to leave? Because typically it's the woman who divorces, she gets cash and prizes, and then in the Catholic Church you get the annulment, you get the new spouse. And I don't need to face what's going on. I don't need to do the ball and chain. I don't need to go for better for worse. I just hopscotch from better to better to better. And you can do it as many times as you want. And the guys are like, we're not getting involved anymore. Statistically, the guys aren't, because it's the women who do the divorce. So he's trying to close the loopholes, trying to plug the dam a little bit on the structure of marriage. And like I said, if you don't call it a contract, you're hosed. You got nothing.
A single mom is going to get more in food stamps than a mom who's married. So what message are we sending? Stay single. Get divorced. You'll get more money. So Thomas Sowell, my favorite economist, always said, show me the incentive and I'll show you the outcome.
Perfect. Really good. More of what I was saying. The incentive is women like to get married typically, but they don't want to be married. This is typical. It's not all this way. There's a lot of bad dudes out there too, but typically it's the women who are running marriage the wrong way, and because of the incentive. Sorry.
The incentive is for people largely to stay single, to not get married.
And that's right. Okay. Right now, that might be the incentive because guys are like, hey, by the way, they're saying like dating is tough. Yes, that's a whole other video I got to make about Pat Benatar and Love's a Battlefield. When you remove the contract from marriage, you are trying to get two people to get together, and it becomes a big game because marriage is this covenant of chemistry and love, and it's just a game of what do we do and how do we do it. No, it's like if you have a contract, it's like, give me the money, I'll give you the car, kind of, or whatever you got. Okay? But if we do not define the structure and create some teeth to it, people aren't going to want, it's too hard to get married. And then once they get married, they have to make sure they conform to that someone's feelings, or they're just going to pull the trigger because it's no fault, because there's no rights. We'll let God sort it out. And you know something? The guilty spouse in every separation says, God's on my side. God told me this is good.
And I'll tell you, divorce, it's a tragedy.
Yep, he's exactly right. I don't need to say more about that. It's a tragedy. It is ruining the structure of the country. It's ruining. If you don't have the building block, the domestic church, you don't have anything. It's like saying all churches are illegal. Our country is going to go down the tubes. If you say all family is illegal, that's what you're doing. With no fault divorce, you're saying you've got no structure, no family, no rights. He can't, it's hard for him to get rid of no fault, but he's basically trying to do it. This is really good. It's something in the right direction.
Look, if you're in an abusive relationship, I will always support your right to exit that relationship.
Huge problem. Huge problem. Warning, James Fishback. If you're in an abusive relationship, I will support your right to remove yourself from it. Okay, so you're saying someone has a right. Okay, what if they're not in an abusive relationship? Do they have a right to not leave? Does someone have a right to force you to stay? Hello? What are these rights you're talking about? You can't say that. This is the problem. If you have a right to leave if there's abuse, do you not have a right to leave if there's no abuse? What does leave mean? I'm not committing adultery. I'm just leaving. Okay? I'm following the love. He's got a huge problem right there. I guess he's trying to say something. Okay, what has to happen politically, I think, is they have to get rid of, quote, family courts. You have to get rid of family courts. Family courts are where you adjudicate nothing. It's terrible. There's zero justice in family courts. Get rid of all family courts and just bring everything to normal court. If there's, quote, abuse, take your abusive spouse to court and show the abuse. You have to have the fault. You've got to show what abuse. What did he do to you, or what did she do to you? What is this abuse? If you can't show no. Emotional abuse doesn't count. You know what I mean? It's like you. However, now that I think about it, emotional abuse can, because you can be so stressed out, you're going to have a heart attack if you're somebody. So you can bring that too, I suppose. You could say, listen, I've got this doctor's order, and this is why there must be separation courts if you do marriage. And if you don't have separation courts, you can't do marriage. You have no court. If you have no system of justice, you can't do anything. If you're saying we're going to have civilization, but we're going to get rid of all courts, what's going to happen? Anarchy in about 5 minutes. If you get rid of all separation courts with marriage, you're going to have marriage anarchy shortly, which is exactly what we have. He's trying to put it together, but he can't. He's who is able to judge the contract? Who is able to lay claim to the contract? No spouse can. That's the point. That we have to have a contract. If you call it a covenant, God's in charge. I'm doing whatever I want. No fault, no fault, no fault. It's boyfriend, girlfriend, divorce. Or boyfriend, girlfriend, high school. That's all you got. That's all marriage is today if it's no fault divorce. He's going to have to think through some of this stuff. And there's plenty of smarter people than me that can help with the law. But you got to get you got to get some serious like ironclad legal behind it, or you get blown apart by the divorce lobby, all the lawyers and all the feminists. They're gonna trash the thing unless you can get it really nailed down strong. I have to think out loud as to what that is exactly, but I think if he just focuses on the adultery equals you get no rights, then so be it.
But if you cheat on your partner, I'm going to reform the divorce laws.
If you cheat, like I said, if you cheat on your partner, so he's saying there is some form of justice, that there is a contract. You cannot cheat. If I cheat on my taxes, you're breaking, a contract with the government. If you cheat on anything, that's injustice. So you have to say marriage is based on a contract. Otherwise, there's no such thing as cheating. It's just like, peace in, peace out. Love here, love there, whatever. Free love. It's all free love at that point.
So you give up 100% of everything, no questions asked.
That's pretty good. You give up 100% of everything, no questions asked. We're no longer defining if you are proven adulterer, then you're out. That's really good. Now, remember the girl in the beginning was saying, if adultery, we got to define it. Well, I guess it's just the physical act, and if that can be proven in court, then you lose everything. So that could also be a little bit tricky and tough to prove, but maybe not. I suppose a judge would, typically it's if somebody is out all night or they're living somewhere that's, I don't need to go into that. Let's continue.
If you are an adulterer in our state, and then there is a divorce, you as the adulterer, you as the cheater, will lose full custody and will lose full claims to any assets in that marriage.
You'll lose full custody of your children. Wow. Good idea. You know why? Because the innocent spouse is supposed to get the children. This is Catholic, by the way. You have a right, a God-given right. It's a very important right, and you have a right to educate your kids in the faith. Otherwise, what are you going to let your kids just be little trans kids or whatever because they grew up in public schools? No, you get to educate your kids. You have that right. He's saying if you want to be the guilty spouse, which means there is guilt and innocence, and you're 100% guilty because you're doing this objective thing of cheating, you lose the right to educate your kids and to see you lose all those rights. And it's not a pretty picture, but it is what it is, and it's very good. So if you're going to goof off, you're going to pay that, and you're not. This will cure a lot of problems. It is very good idea. I have to read about some of the critics of it, but I say more power on this. I think it's really good that he's blurting this out. You know what, though? He's going against even his Catholic bishop. Not only are most of the Catholic bishops Democrats, they're all pro-family planning, which means all of them will say you cannot, there is no fault in separations. They do not, they all had separation courts. I wish someone could get the memo to James Fishback. Florida had separation courts. Catholics are all baptized, but, Catholics had to go to separation court if they were going to not live together because of adultery or because of not living up to the marriage contract, the marriage rights, reputation, educating kids, whatever it was, separation court. And if you did not do what the bishop ruled, you lose your salvation. You lose your sacraments. There's the teeth right there. Doesn't that sound mean and sad and scary? this is why everyone goes to heaven today, because we can't take away anyone's stuff. It's like there's no reason. And I forgot exactly how that scenario works, but the Canon 915 and universal salvation, that dynamic is connected. And once you start taking away sacraments for stuff, then everyone goes to heaven anyway, because you can commit bad sin and still go to heaven, because we're not going to take your communion away. So if we never take the sacraments away, everyone goes to heaven.
And with all due respect, the reporting from the Daily Mail yesterday makes clear that Congressman Donalds did commit adultery when he hit on Erica Donalds.
All right, whatever. So I guess the black guy who he's running against committed adultery, and I don't really care. I mean, that's whatever. That's darn dirty stuff. But
and then was later divorced by his wife, Bisa Hall, in 2002.
A lot of Republicans are big on divorce, or they don't combat divorce. This is really good. This, by the way, this Fishback guy, he's getting just hammered by a lot of in the media, a lot of places for some of his stances, because he is standing up and admitting some reality. And I think the demons hate that. But a lot of Republicans are like IVF, contraception, divorce, so they can't deal with any. This is like, okay, divorce is such a gigantic problem, and absolutely nobody is coming up with a solution or dealing with it. It's like we have this huge, massive injustice everywhere. What are we talking about? Everything but. Everything but. And the reason why we're not talking about it is you cannot solve it unless you get back to Catholicism and kill the family planning. Who's going to do that? Nobody. So what do? We do the next best thing, and we have Fishback here saying adultery equals you lose your rights. Presuming there are rights, okay? So he's just trying to make a political solution, and that's good. It's a good start.
It applies to everyone, male or female. If you enter the covenant of marriage...
There he goes right there. That's the point. If you enter the covenant of marriage, total politics, total baloney. If you enter the contract of marriage, if you don't say contract, you got nothing. Because if you enter the covenant of marriage, what are you doing about it, Fishback? Get out of here. Let God take over. You can't judge my marriage. You don't know my needs. You don't know if I need to commit adultery. My husband never loved me. This marriage isn't valid. He hates her. He hates me. He hates my kids. He's a drug addict. He's this, he's that, blah, blah, blah. And the next door neighbor is so nice. And it's not adultery because my conscience told me and my God told me, because my God is a God of love and my neighbor is into my love and we have a big love thing. So get out of here, Fishback. You can't judge my stuff because it's a covenant from God and I know what God wants because I follow the Holy Spirit. That's how dumb it is, okay? Get with the contract, dude. It's Catholic. Normal people can say contract, and civil operates on contract. Civil doesn't operate on, when it comes to marriage, civil doesn't operate on covenant. Covenant is something in the Bible. While I'm thinking of it, I'll get back to the rest of this video in a second. Let's talk about, this is kind of cool. Let's talk about marriage covenant, and we're going to talk about it in the Bible, all right? Because this is what everyone says. They'll go, oh, no, marriage covenant, it's in the Bible, right? Malachi 2, it's in the Bible. Marriage covenant, that's where it comes from, blah, blah, blah. No, nuh-uh. Let's go there. You know who used to object to this is that William Albrecht guy, the black guy on YouTube. He doesn't like to talk to me, that's for sure. He says marriage is a covenant. All Catholic answers say that. They have to say marriage is a covenant, have to, because contract rights are gone, because separation courts are gone, because family planning, love-based, love wins is in, which means there is no objective consent. You're consenting to a cloud of love. There's no rights to that, okay? Marital debt is gone. This is why you have to consent every time. There are no more rights to the body. There is just perpetual consent. Now then, let's read Malachi 2, okay? So they're talking about covenant, right? What is covenant? And you shall know that I sent you this commandment, that my covenant might be with Levi, saith the Lord of hosts. So God is saying, look, I'm making a covenant with Levi. These guys are going to be priests. This is a permanent covenant. Dig. This group, this tribe of Levi, is they a tribe? Yeah. Covenant, baby. Now, he says, okay, so then they're talking about stuff, and then people started going sideways and not so good, okay? Then it says, but you have departed out of the way and have caused many to stumble at the law. You have made void the covenant of Levi, said the Lord of hosts. So you're a jerk. You messed up. You started doing the wrong things, and you're voiding the covenant of Levi. A marriage covenant? No, a covenant God made with the tribe of Levi. Okay, that's what a covenant is. It's permanent, and it doesn't have a time frame on it. Okay, we're not going to do this till 22 AD or something. Therefore have I also made you contemptible before all people. Yeah. Okay, Judah's unfaithfulness. Have we not all one Father? Yes, we do. Hath not one God created us? Why then doth not every one despise his brother, violating the covenant of our fathers? I thought marriage was a covenant. No, covenant of our fathers. You know what I'm saying? As in the religion, we're all part of the same constitution, covenant. Church governance, God governance, covenant. That's the deal. Judah has transgressed abomination, Judah hath profaned the holiness of the Lord, which he loved, and hath, married the daughter of a strange god. He didn't say he married in a covenant the daughter of a strange. No, when he did something bad, he married the daughter of a strange god. So out of the covenant, okay? He married somebody out of the covenant of Levi. Somebody who's not in the same government, the same religion, the same constitution, the same God drawn up, agreed to, imposed covenant. He married a daughter out from a strange god. The Lord will cut off the man that has done this. Whoops. Both the master and the scholar out of the tabernacles of Jacob, and him that offereth an offering to the Lord of hosts. He's going to cut you off if you do that. That's why Catholics can't do mixed marriages. You don't want to do that. It's a different God. The gods of the demons are Gentiles. This is why all this stuff gets super tricky. What if he comes up and says, I'm a Catholic and all non-Catholics are going to hell? He's going to lose the election. You see what I'm saying? He can't go there. He's got to... all Muslims worship the devil. He can't say that. He's got to try to obviously work with politics. Most people know what cheating is, even though they don't admit that marriage is legal and marriage is law-based and marriage is contract-based. They just know what cheating is and they know it's not good. So he's trying to work on that. That's really cool. It's whatever you can do, man. This is the USA of craziness. This is not. Yeah, this isn't. Catholic Europe 500 years ago, 1,000 years ago. And this again you have done, for you have covered the altar of the Lord with tears, weeping and bellowing. So you have no regard to sacrifice, neither do I accept any atonement at your hands. And you have said, for what cause? Because the Lord has been witness to thee, And the wife, okay, here we go. And you have said, well, for what cause? Because the Lord hath been witness to thee, between thee and the wife of thy youth. God saw, he's been witness to the wife of your youth. This is like symbol, and hath despised. Yet she was thy partner, the wife of thy covenant. So he is saying, look, you freakazoids, you married somebody out of under the daughter of a strange god, out of the covenant. You married somebody out of the covenant. He's not saying marriage is a covenant. He's saying you married somebody out of the government, out of the covenant. But he's saying, look, it's like I saw you and you got married, but you despised the wife of thy covenant. So you did get married in the church. You do have a covenant with somebody. You do have, they're all of the same covenant, and you despise them. Did not one make her, and she is the residue of his spirit? Yeah, because that's really good. That's a really cool line. Residue of his spirit. He is her Lord. The husband is her Lord. She's his helpmate. And what doth one seek but the seed of God? procreation primary, anyone? Keep then your spirit and despise not the wife of your youth. Oh boy, that's good. This is really cool, by the way. So this is hopefully dashing and blowing away everyone who's saying, you know, all your Malachi says marriage is a covenant. No, they just use the same word. That doesn't mean that marriage is a covenant. That means they were all under the same government, all under the same covenant of God. Marriage is a contract, okay? Despise not the wife of thy youth, because you have a contract with her. You can't put her away. When you hate your wife, you put her away, okay? That's what you're doing. Putting her away, you're violating the contract. You're putting her away. Who's doing it? You're laying claim to yourself. You're saying, hey, I hate my wife. I'm putting her away. I am claiming authority over our contract. Only the government has that, and only the church has that. This is why the church decides, is it per divine law, and then it allows the state to carry out the orders. This is why you have to have Catholic separation courts first. The bishop must judge divine law, but everybody knows that adultery violates divine law. Everyone knows it, basically, unless you're super free love hippie. You may not. Then you'll vote Democrat. But most people know. I guess adultery is wrong. Most people kind of know that, so they'll go with it for a political winner. If you hate your spouse, put her away, separate, says the Lord of hosts. Saith the Lord God of Israel. But iniquity shall cover your garment, saith the Lord of hosts. Keep your spirit and despise not. You put her away. You're divorcing. That's what you're doing. It's separating, okay? Iniquity shall cover your garment. Instead of a red letter A, you get a red letter I. You're going to hell if you do this. That's why divorce is... You can't bring this up anymore. Oh, by the way, I forgot I was going to mention this. The separation clause, you can separate for adultery. You can. Oh, but I remember he's saying if you're a victim of abuse, you can separate. And I agree with your right to separate if there's abuse. This is Matthew 19:9. You let what God has joined, let not man put asunder, except for porneia, adultery. You can separate. In other words, if there's something against marriage, you can separate. That's what that means. Now the Catholic Church, the bishops are messed up because they're saying, oh, this means annulments. This means invalidity. So there is no more right to separate because there's no rights, because it's about invalidity. So they've blown the whole contract away. So Fishback has an uphill battle. He's trying to install a modicum of Catholic truth into the marriage contract, and he's got all the Protestants against him and all the Catholics against him. And he doesn't quite even know that. This is so hard, but hopefully he's getting a little inspiration from God on this. I assume he is. You know, he kind of puts it out there, man. That's really cool, I think. He might get some millennial vote because he's saying some powerful stuff. Okay. So there's that. You have wearied the Lord with your words. You said, wherein we have wearied him, you say, everyone that doth evil is good in his sight. Da. Yeah. Okay, so there you go. It ain't a covenant. Malachi is speaking of government. Let's go back to the video we were just watching. Okay, go ahead.
And then you cheat. You're giving up everything. You don't have any rights.
Did he just say the R word, rights? If you cheat, you don't have any rights. So therefore, you do have rights if you don't cheat. Okay, what are the rights that you have if you don't cheat? Nobody can define those rights. Not even Cardinal Burke can define those rights. Because if marriage is love doesn't have rights. It just has love. Love just means total self-gift and keep on giving. You have no rights. If you get slapped in the face, just, that's not a good analogy. Never mind. Don't forget I said that. He's talking about rights. Rights means contract. Rights means justice. Rights means guarantor of rights. And you have to articulate, you have to define and enumerate your rights. You have rights under the Constitution. They're not infinite. They're not undefined. They exist, okay? If he's going to throw the rights word around, He's got to say what rights, if he says you lose your rights, what rights do you have? And if no fault divorce says you have no rights, this is his big problem he's got. This is why this has never succeeded, because it comes back to, what do you define the marriage contract? No one can do it. Therefore, no one can say jack about its governance. Okay? I hope we can come up with, I hope someone sends this video to him. I hope we can come up with a solution. I'm going to go in the comment section and try, and we're going to stimulate some thought with other people to try to help package this into a political winner. I think he's got something, and I'm sure he's thought it through. We're going to keep going.
Because I've seen up close, not in my own family, but people close to me who have suffered through the stress, the pain, the affliction of divorce. You know, the GOP says that we don't have privilege. I actually disagree. I have a lot of privilege. I have the privilege of growing up in a two-parent household.
It's not even, it's a privilege, yeah. It's also a right. A child has a right to grow up in a two-parent household, a natural law right, because they have a right to be educated, which means formed in the faith. So you don't turn them into little goblins, little orcs. They have that right. You know, you have to feed your kid. Yes, of course. They have a right to certain, because they can't form themselves. They can't feed themselves. They also have to be protected emotionally and spiritually from trash. So the storybook, trans storybook hour, whatever, so lame, so retarded. If you start saying birth control is fine, all your rights are gone, kids don't have any rights, the state says they don't have any rights, nobody has rights. Anyway, it's all connected. So again, it's a case of political. Everyone's like, yeah, we want birth control, and yeah, now marriage is completely gone, so we don't want that either. So you're gonna, it's like there's a hole in the boat, and now we're sinking, and we want to keep the hole in the boat. What do? Let's bail water more. Good idea. That's all this is. He's saying, look, we've got to bail some water. Okay. No, you're going to hurt us if you bail. No, you have to bail water. You got to plug the hole, but you can't plug the hole except with Catholic truth. And the bishops aren't even plugging the hole, because we need to let birth control in. We need to let family planning in. So we're not going to plug the hole. You cut a hole in the bottom of the boat, the marriage boat, and you let all the family planning in, which ruins the definition of boat. It immediately becomes part of the entire ocean. And we can't judge where the marriage starts and stops, because there's a hole in the bottom and it's just everywhere. And everyone wants their birth control, so no one will touch that hole. And if it fills up with water, it's like, yeah, this really stinks. Everyone's wet and cold and they're sinking. It's bad now, so let's start bailing. It's a step in the right direction, but it'll stop a lot. It'll stop from sinking. It's good. It's a move in the right direction.
I didn't have to have my mom and dad fight about who's going to have custody this weekend. I didn't leave my homework at my mom's house.
I didn't have mom and dad fight to see who would have custody this weekend. Super child abuse. Hello, mega child abuse. When you take a little kid and they start realizing my safe space is no longer with my parents, where are they going to find their safe space? Probably in a furry community near you or somewhere else, man. Mom and dad aren't safe, but that's where they're supposed to be safe. And the reason is because they're half mom, half dad. Mom and dad need to be together. And if they're not, the kid can't start developing. They can't form themselves safely because they got no foundation now. It's just, this is why I say you create a society of Walmart orcs when you let no-fault divorce run rampant. So at least this guy is trying to do something, because what else can you do? Everyone be a pre-1951 Catholic. Vote for me. Woohoo! Can't do that. So what do? You do the next best thing. Say, we got to start bailing the boat out. Sorry, everybody. Sorry, feminists. This boat is sinking. Even though you want it to sink, the gays want it to sink. Nope. We have, because the marriage boat is patriarchy. There's no way around it. And he's trying to save the patriarchy with any tools he can. And in the USA, you're extremely limited. Anyway, he was saying I'm going to reverse him just a little bit because I cut him off.
Going to have custody this weekend. I didn't leave my homework at my mom's house and then have to give that excuse to my teacher.
These are little talking points he made. Yeah, he's saying, yeah, it's really tough. It's like, hey, where's your homework? Well, I left it at my dad's and I stayed at my mom's. It's so lame. It's so sick, so bad what you do to kids when you separate. This is why it is grave sin and you go to hell for taking the contract into your own hands. You can't touch that contract. You gave away your rights to do it when you said, I do, for better or for worse. You lost your right to touch the contract. No Fault says, what contract? You do whatever you want. And so he's trying to say, Fishback is saying, we're going to call out the obvious violations because that's the only thing politically we got.
On Tuesday morning, divorce is wrong.
Divorce is wrong. Okay. Yeah, it's a violation of nature. But we can't say that anymore because birth control is natural. Therefore, not having kids is nature, and therefore the conjugal act is to not have kids. Therefore, there's no object of consent if there's no definition of what that object is. It's to not have kids, which means it's love, which means you can't define it. Let me reverse because I talk too much. You guys are really getting your money's worth here, aren't you?
Is wrong. Adultery is a moral sin.
Whoa, a Catholic? What does he just say? Adultery is a moral sin. I don't know if he meant to say mortal or what, because he can't say that. I think he should he should say mortal sin. It's in the Bible, man. Some sins are deadly and some sins aren't. It's mortal sin. He says adultery is a moral sin. Oh, that's so weird. I don't know what kind of Catholic he is, man. He also said something kind of weird. He said something like we need to not do too much development, or I don't know about that. Whatever. He's saying a lot of good stuff. And I got another video that's really cool that he's into that I'm going to play in a minute. Anyway, yes, adultery is a moral sin. He's treading this tightrope of morality, and he good luck on that. No, adultery violates the contract. You have to get like concrete and civil instead of yeah, you can talk about God. That's cool, totally. But also we got to keep our otherwise people are going to be like, this guy is a Christian nationalist, what do you call it? I don't know, theological government or whatever they call it. Theocracy. Speak of contract, speak of rights, speak of law, speak of justice, okay? Put a little teeth into the marriage, define the contract, at least some of the terms, anything, okay, at this point? How about the fidelity part? Just say, I will stay with this person and until death, and we'll have to flesh that out more because it starts to get tricky, and the divorce lawyers absolutely pick it apart. So anyone who's tried to fix this gets hammered. Good luck out there.
And if you commit it, no, we're not going to arrest you. But if you are a man and you cheat on your wife in Florida, get ready to lose everything. I will not tolerate that in our state.
Perfect. Get ready to lose everything. This is really good. He's playing on sentiment. He's playing on emotion. A lot of people know divorce hurts a lot of people. Everyone's experienced it either in their family or their friends or themselves. Everybody. And they've seen the damage. So it's all around. So they're like, okay, you knuckleheads, have you had enough free love yet? He's trying, like I said, he's trying to bail out the patriarchy boat. Feminists aren't going to like it, but it's all you can do.
We will stand up for the dignity and the sanctity of marriage in Florida.
The dignity and sanctity of marriage in Florida. Okay, that's a good soundbite. That's cool. The sanctity of marriage, the dignity of marriage. How about the rights of spouses? Dignity and sanctity. That sounds cool. You're running for governor of a state, not really. I don't know, president of a church or something. So it's good, but it's a little bit theocracy. It's a little bit Christian national and all. You can do both, buddy. We want to fight for rights of kids to be raised in a two-parent family per nature, okay? And spousal rights to the contract. Again, you don't have for political reasons, don't be shy of the word covenant, but make sure you say contract every time. A lot of people will accept both. You're not going to make everyone happy, of course you know that, but you got to bolt this down as best you can, or you'll just get blown out. Okay, I think that's it for him. Now, let's look at how Catholic he is. Hang on a second.
And then anything else you want to say to people that are Catholic Republicans that are interested in you and voting for you?
Yes, just a little interview. This is from a year ago, and this is James Fishback. He's going to talk about his Catholicism. And like I said, I was surprised, man. I thought the guy was Protestant. Totally. Okay? Because he said covenant. But listen to this.
Is there any last message you would say to them?
I would say that you say you're a principled leader. The question then is, where do your principles come from? My principles come from the Bible first, the Constitution second. I'm an unapologetic Catholic. I'm going to be an unapologetic Catholic governor. You'll see me at Mass every Sunday, and you'll see the walking of the Blessed Sacrament through Tallahassee.
Amen.
Many, many times a year, because I'll tell you, we need to draw on His grace and His wisdom to make us lead right again.
Amen. Viva Cristo Rey. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
So that was totally cool. Totally. Anyone who says that, I'm like,
anything else you want to say to people?
Anyone who says that, I'm all about it. I'm going to vote for this guy. Not that I'm in Florida, but anyway, anyone who says that, what else do you want? That's amazing. Okay, I'm going to leave you with a little bit of acoustic punk rock from a Jerry Reed song because it's appropriate. And as usual, if you're not against NFP, you're not on the team. So go out there and stay toxic.
Well, she said she would, so I said I do, but I said I wouldn't if I just knew how saying I do was going to screw up all of my life. Well, the first 2 years weren't all that bad. I'll never forget the good times we'd have because I reminded every month when I sent her the child support. Well, it wasn't too long because the lust all died. I'll admit I wasn't too surprised. Day I come home and found my suitcase sitting out on the porch. Well, I tried to get in, she changed the lock. Then I found this note taped on the mailbox saying, "Goodbye, turkey. My attorney will be in touch, So I decided right then and there I was going to do what's right, give her fair share. But brother, I didn't know her share was going to be that much. Where's she got to go, man? I got to